So he spent 21 years in prison for a crime he did not commit, which was the rape and murder of Susan Burdett. We all know the story of Teina Pora being released. It's been announced in the last 24, 36 hours that compensation is coming his way. It's being said it will be around $100,000 per year to about $2.1 million. At the time of filming, we're within hours of an expectation of finding out exactly how much Teina Pora will be awarded. So we're speaking right now as if the $2.1 million amount is going to be the amount given by the government to Teina Pora. Now there is lots of opinion on this. This morning on Paul Henry's show, Chris Gallivan, who is the one of the law professors from Massey University, has some really interesting things to say, especially around the level of negligence by the police and those involved with convicting Teina Pora.
This isn't a case that we all thought Teina Pora was guilty and all of a sudden some DNA dropped out of the sky, which occasionally happens, and we're suddenly, to our shock, oh my goodness, this guy, this poor fellow is now actually in prison for a crime that we now know didn't commit. That's why to say this has just been wound followed by aggravation followed by assault, because he has, the way the police conducted themselves in their investigation was woefully inadequate, and then it was perpetuated by the Crown and their almost antagonistic relationship with the defence.
So one of the interesting things is the $2.1 million, if indeed it ends up being that figure.
Could be more.
Arthur Allen Thomas, 30 years ago, got $1 million, and that was for 10 years in prison.
Yeah.
So basically, Teina Pora has been offered the same amount of money per year that Arthur Allen Thomas got, because it's double the time, double the money. Not too long ago, David Doherty, who was in jail for under 4 years, got just under $900,000. So one of the big questions is $2.1 million, 21 years, and it's not just that he was wrongly convicted. It appears, from those who are in the know in this case, that the level of negligence was such that it kept him in prison far longer than he needed to.
Because what year was he found innocent of the rape?
So he was convicted in 92. In 96, DNA at the Burdett crime scene and several rapes identified it to belonging to Malcolm Rewa. So in 96, they knew that he didn't commit the rape.
But they kept him in jail for the murder.
Well, they retried him, and there was 2 hung juries, and then they convicted him again. And of course, part of this was down to his confession, but they know now, and I only use this figure because it's the figure I've heard from experts, being interviewed, that he has the mental capacity of a preteen. It just...
Yeah, and you have to wonder how many other vulnerable people have been wrongfully convicted in New Zealand are in jail right now.
That's why we should be looking at compensation well above this, almost as a fine, to make sure the justice system reassesses itself, because there's something going wrong with both the police and the justice system to have this sort of unsafe conviction. And the signs were all there. It's not like the DNA just suddenly came about and showed that he didn't do it. There were a lot of people involved in this case that pointed to inconsistencies and problems in it. So this was a disaster by the police, and really heads should roll, and he needs an apology for this, a state apology essentially. And I think we should be talking a ballpark figure of maybe $6-8 million.
Well, that's an interesting figure. Chris Gallivan this morning in the interview, which we didn't show, but he went on, Paul Holmes asked him how much should it be, and he said you should start at 6 and work your way up.
Yeah.
So I suspect that there's something funny going on with the leak here, because of course that's how we know $2.1 million, and I suspect that it's been leaked perhaps for 2 reasons. To establish a figure, and then when they come out with say 4 million, people think, oh actually that's quite generous.
But you can search the figure. The figure is $100,000 per year. That's an industry standard. Not that there's an industry standard, but for this kind of thing it's $100,000 per year. So that's not really leaked. That's people going, well, this is what they pay.
Yeah.
Because this keeps happening. And even at the interview, the police must have known they were dealing with someone with the child's IQ, and yet they kept pursuing it.
They just wanted a conviction.